that being said, I just want to welcome you to the show. So how you doing today, Sandra?
I'm great, Tony. I'm just excited to be here.
All right. I'm excited to have you here. When we was messaging back and forth, I was like, man, I am really looking forward to diving deep into our topic and everything. So tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, my name's Sandi Trevino Rae, and I've been an occupational therapist for a little over 26, 27 years, primarily working in mental health, some pediatrics as well. And I currently am a program director for an occupational therapy assistant program. So I'm also a professor and an author. And I've really that book just really brought out topics about my journey from how I grew up. In an area that really there weren't very many people of color, and there was just a number of different trials that I went through, but kind of all came to fruition. And now I'm speaking about it, and I'm just loving it, just loving sharing my journey.
Man, that is truly awesome. And mental health is one of those things, if we haven't been seeing it last year, I don't know what to tell anyone. It put everything on the table, say, this is what we have to deal with. And I noticed that before all of this, a lot of things were pretty much swept under the rug and everything. Like those conversations about depression and anxiety, thoughts of suicide, people don't understand that these things are triggers. This is your mental health going downhill. And speaking from someone with experience of having my mental health pretty much just demolished and not truly grasping the concept of mental health.
Sure.
Right? Let's dive deeper into that so people get a better understanding of what that truly looks like.
Sure. And I think as a mental health practitioner, as well as someone that also deals with mental health personally, it's very different for everyone. Mm-hmm. So we can't really put someone into kind of a box. Mm-hmm. However, there are some threads that kind of continue through. If there's been a change in your normal character, or if there's been a change in how your eating habits are, your exercise habits, your work habits, if there's been major changes, or you're noticing that even within yourself, that you are just not feeling like you're in your skin, and that does not feel good to you. Right. Whether you're more snappy at people, or you're just really kind of lethargic, whatever the changes might look like to each person. If you're noticing some changes, and you are absolutely right, Tony, this past year, people are really feeling like, I can't brush this under the rug anymore. It is here. I'm living it. What can I do to help myself? And so it's becoming one of those things that we're really kind of lifting the stigma from it. Right. And it's interesting because in my practice, if someone, I've worked in orthopedics as well, and cardiac. So if you see stitches, if you see a bone that's been displaced or something, okay, I get it. You're hurting. When it doesn't show on the outside, it's very interesting how people think, oh, come on, pull yourself up from the bootstraps, get yourself out of bed, make your day good. You should be happy. Look, that's all that's going on. Because it doesn't show on the outside, right. People kind of dismiss it. And that's where that stigma comes in. And especially this last year, we were all dealing with things way out of our control. Yes. That brought it all to the surface. Yes. So I think it's important to have these conversations and really talk about, you know what? It is not something to be ashamed of. It is not something to feel guilty about, that you're having a bad day, but this is even more than that. It's about having a bad week, bad month, just having a bad time. And that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, I've been looking forward to having a conversation like this for quite some time, especially being a man, not just in society, but in the world today.
Sure.
And dealing with the grief and the trauma aspect of it from a man's perspective has really opened up my eyes, and actually started to connect the bridges between what women go through and what men go through, and connecting the similarities and going, that's what we need to work on. That way we can get into the meat of what's actually going on, right. And having walked that path, right? Having, and still from time to time, I walk it anyway. I still walk it due to my trauma that I'm still dealing with, due to the grief that I'm still dealing with, and having to take that and actually tell people, I'm not okay. And I need you to be okay with that because I'm okay with that.
Sure.
Because in this moment, I realize that there's something else that I have to deal with. So if I get snappy with you, or it seems like I'm depressed or, very irritable, it's because I am.
Right.
And defining the word mental health, such a hard word to grasp, right? Because when we talk about it, most people back away.
They do. It's almost one of these things, and I talk about it in my book, that when we talk about physical health, that seems acceptable. Or if it's contagious, okay, then I get it that I should stay away. Now, mental health, they don't even have a thought about it, that they all automatically think it is somewhat contagious, that, ooh, okay, I don't want to touch that. I'll give you some time. You go work through your things, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it. Right. It is not contagious. You don't have to fix me. I'm just saying I'm not okay. And just as you said, Tony, I'm hoping you'll be okay with me not being okay. And if you're not, that's your journey that you're dealing with. But I've got enough on my plate that I got to take care of me. I can't take care of you thinking whatever you may be thinking about my health. I've got to take care of me right now. And it's one of those things, both men and women, because I have clients of both sexes. And it's one of those things that they say, I feel so weak when I don't feel in control. I feel like I should have this under control, men or women. But I find a trend, especially men, feel like I'm the leader of my community. I'm the leader of my family. I'm the leader of my work. I should be able to control this. Why? If you had diabetes, really, you're going to be strong enough that you should have that under control. If you had a cardiac issue, a blood pressure issue, you should have that in control. It is the same. You can't control everything, and it is not a sign of weakness. It means you need help.
Yeah. And the hardest part is asking for the help. And I've been that route. I've been weak. I've felt helpless, and it was coming out the other side of it, actually going through and weathering the storm, actually defining what mental health actually meant to me.
Sure.
For the most part, because everybody will, as you mentioned before, everybody is different. You can't just put one person in the box that says that's what it looks like. You'd be a fool if we ever tried to do something like that, because then something else pops up and now you're going to try to categorize this outside of what it already is.
Right.
Now, speaking from lived experience, you mentioned earlier that you had to battle with your own.
I did. So, my journey led me. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna ask. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. I grew up always feeling not quite good enough. A person of color in southern Minnesota, there's blonde, blue-eyed people all over. I didn't look like people around me. No one else looked like me. And I just felt very different. And that stuck with me. So I felt somewhat bullied. I felt somewhat just not good enough and not the same as anyone else. Well, years later, as carrying this load, I went through a traumatic divorce. And although I had worked in mental health and locked psychiatric units for a number of years, I found myself really in a dark place, and I ended up on a locked psychiatric unit. So I ended up on the other side. And you would think that I have clients. I know kind of the tools, coping skills. I know what those things are that could possibly help. But I need to tell you that although we may know it, you are in a different place and not in a position to accept that. And you may be able to say it to the masses, but to say it to the mirror is something very different. So being vulnerable and finding myself on the other side of that locked unit door was very eye-opening, because I've been on many locked units working with people as an occupational therapist, teaching social skills and combating anxiety and learning calming techniques and mindfulness, but then to be on the other side as a patient. That was incredible. It was incredible. Talk about vulnerable moment and hitting really the bottom of the barrel or rock bottom. That was it.
See, I've never gotten to that point. I think mine's went in a different route when I finally gave up of fighting, right? And I was when I got to that moment, I was actually surprised that it took so long.
Mm.
I think that was my biggest thing. I was surprised that it took so long, but unexpected things happen, right? And I guess that journey, my journey into the mental health intertwined with grief, intertwined
Sure.
with trauma, right? And then you
Right.
find out that they all run hand in hand. So that
Yep.
it just weaves this massive quilt, right? And
Sure.
we try to make sense of it because I was going, when before then, I never even gave it a second thought.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You know what I'm saying? I just thought things were just the way that it was. I was supposed to be this type of individual, right? Because of everything that everyone taught me. I didn't
Sure.
know that it was a stigma. I thought it was a regular thing.
Sure.
And the feeling of helplessness, the first time I truly felt helpless is when my son was overdosed, 2015, October 31st. And his pharmacist over mixed his medication. And so when I gave it to him, he collapsed. He ended up in the hospital. That feeling of helplessness, that feeling of, like I'm ashamed that because I'm the one who gave him the medication. I was willing to take the blame. I was like, I didn't know what I did wrong.
Sure.
And so the guilt, right? Like, man, what am I going to do if, I'm going to jail for the rest of my life for murdering my kid? And I had nothing to do with it. And then it was the shame of, I should have known better. Right? I should have known, but it's just now I'm only saying this from my perspective. And maybe we can, kind of break it down across the board. Cause I know you've seen a lot of it yourself, right?
I have.
And the anxiety of those 3 days of wondering if my son was going to make it out of there, right? And it's like, I'm irritable. I'm going into depressed because now I have to imagine a life without him.
Sure. Sure.
And then there was a sense of gratitude when he woke up, and I was going, whoa. And then I kept that, and then my worst fear, right? He passes away. And that really dove deep into my mental health. And again, I didn't understand it.
Sure.
I didn't understand it. I was like, why am I depressed?
Yeah.
Why am I so angry?
Yeah.
Why is it that I want to just be isolated from people? Then I realized, I was like, Tone, hey, let's think about this for a minute. And then it hit me again when my mother passed away 2 years after that. And I was like, again, another avenue from this mental health thing, right? And I struggled with it hard. And it was hard for me to, when I got to the point where I was ready to, when I gave up and I planned out my suicide, and I talk about this a lot in many other podcasts, and it's very relevant when we talk about this, right? Because mental health will take you that your inaccurate thinking, as my buddy tells me, you're inaccurate. You can think yourself into a depression. You can think yourself into a suicide. The problem is that once you look at the other side, there's a mirrored image of that you look at it and you can think yourself right back out of it again.
Absolutely.
You cannot do it alone.
No.
And I realized that, like, when I gave up, I've never felt like that before. I was weak. I called my sister about a week after I tried to take my life, and I had to tell her, I said, baby girl, I have something to tell you. And she was like, what? And I broke it down to her. She was like, what do you mean? I said, I'm struggling with my mental health right now. And she goes, well, just, it's going to be okay. I was like, no, it's not, baby girl, it's not going to be okay. And I'm going to tell you why it's not going to be okay. I just tried to take my life. She, what do you mean? That's exactly what I said. Just tried to take my life. And I said, I think I'm going to do it again. But this time I think I'm going to be very successful at it because I no longer have fear.
Yeah. And
admitting that, someone else came to me and said, hey, you're suffering from a mental health illness. I think your grief is triggering your trauma.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, let's talk about some of the things that you've seen being on the opposite side of that, the challenges, that you had to go through.
Oh, sure. So, much like what I'm hearing from you is that gamut of emotions,
Mhm.
because not only is it about, okay, the guilt that you were talking about, my goodness, did I do something that I could have prevented, that I could have done differently, that I could have, we could go down the road of could have for a long time. But then there's shame, and you've talked about that as well. And then you get to the hopelessness. Um, and you are absolutely right. When you get to a point where it's really not you anymore, and that depression takes over, that darkness is what I talk about, takes over, you're not in your right mind. You are not thinking clearly. And that's when we make those choices that really are uncharacteristics of what we may have been in the past.
Mhm.
But if it's grief, if it's trauma, if it's a mixture of any of those things, again, that takes over and you aren't thinking clearly. For myself, I'm loving my children. I'm a great mom, and I've always wanted to be a mom. So when I hear things like writing in my letter, I don't want my kids to suffer anymore worrying about me. I want them to have an easier life. I want someone else to be able to take care of them. I want to rid them of any worry. When I'm talking in that voice, that is not my true authentic self. That is somewhat darkness taking over. Whatever may have triggered that, because there's a number of emotions that can trigger that, which you've named a few: grief, trauma, shame, a number of different emotions can trigger that. But if you get to that point, you did the right thing, reaching out because you knew I'm probably going to be successful. And I did the same thing. I reached out because I warned some of my friends, if I ever start talking about that, my kids would be better off without me, or really just want to sleep. I want it to all be done. I want this over with. Then I'm on the path to being done with this. I was at a point where I didn't recognize me anymore, and that me was nowhere to be found. So luckily, I also reached out to someone, and they came to my aid. But I think you and I reached out, but I think many people either don't have someone that they think can listen, will listen. They feel very alone,
Mhm.
or who would care. And that's again that point where you are seeing darkness and you really are not yourself anymore. And I want to make sure that listeners know that there are plenty of hotlines. There are plenty of people. If you don't feel comfortable calling family, friends, you need to reach out. There are plenty of people that will hear you. And you may be surprised if you do reach out to family and friends. They may have no idea what is going on, and they will be there. You might be pleasantly surprised. But if you're not comfortable, please reach out. NAMI's got a wonderful hotline. There's a number of different places, and I'll give you those at the end. But please reach out. Give yourself another chance. You are so worth it. And when you're in that darkness, you don't see that. But please know you are meant to be here, and you are so worth it. Your journey may not be done. There's something else for you to be doing.
And I love that analogy, that dark place, because I've talked about it several times earlier on when I first started doing nonprofit work in grief, and trying to reach out to men for the most part. I was going out,
Sure.
trying to reach them. And then when you mention the word mental health, man, they run like
Yeah.
they run like they're running from something. I was like, "Hey,
Yes.
where are you running from? No, let's come back here. Let's talk about this." And it took such a long time. But then I realized what I was fighting against,
Sure.
right? I was fighting against generations and generations of us being told what we're supposed to act like, right?
Mm-hmm.
What we're not supposed to do.
Right.
What was,
Right.
the definition of being a man, so to speak, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I realized, and this was my aha moment, the people that was teaching the young men how to be men were women.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
going, well, this is why we messed up now. Like women, we have to do something different, right?
Right.
We definitely have to do something different. But what it did, once I started reaching out to those parents of those kids and telling them, because I've heard it so many times, I say, hey, don't ever tell your son that, let alone your daughter. Your talk, what you say to them will impact them in a way that you have no idea.
Right.
Even though you may think that your parenting skills are up to par, the words that you're using are damaging.
Oh, yes.
They're
powerful.
And they're damaging to yourself.
Right.
Like you said, you cannot get up in the morning and look at yourself in the mirror and go, whatever happens today, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people, when you get up in the morning, your talk with yourself needs to be intentional.
Yep.
You should be the first person that speak life over yourself before anyone else does.
Absolutely.
You should be the first person to say, hey, I love you. Mm-hmm. I love me some me. That way, when someone else says it to you, that's a bonus.
Absolutely.
But it has to start there, right?
Yeah.
Mental health is one of those things. It's so messy. It's so messy. So, and what I mean by that, the many, many doors that opens it, right? And how hard it is to close them once they're open. Correct. And I think when they realize that the door is not meant to be open, the door is meant to be explored and everything else inside of there, because that defines you. It's going to open up the doors to who you are. It's going to lead the pathway to that healing that we talk about, right? And people really don't understand that healing is hard.
It is. It's really hard work. It really is. And I think, especially in our society, we think there should be an easy fix. We are kind of in that drive-through mentality. I should be able to go through the drive-through and it should be instantaneous kind of thing. No, folks, you deserve to sit down, linen napkins, and have the full service, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not going to come easy. You should be able to put just as much time in your physical health or into your mental health as you do into your physical health. And one of the things that I wanted to bring up is, you're right. When you wake up in the morning, you should give yourself your first tally of the day. Mm-hmm. And then as they come along, you're ready. So you've put that armor on for your day because you don't know what's coming ahead of you. But if you have that tally already in the pro side, you're one step ahead. So I really like that you touched on that, because that's important. Before your foot touches the floor in your bedroom, you should have a tally going. I got this. I can do this. I am worthy, and I am grateful for my day ahead of me. But yeah, it's just one of those things that it takes a lot of work. And you're right. Once those doors are open, you almost want to force it back shut because, do I really want to open and go through that door? Because that's a lot of work. It's going to hurt. We don't like to hurt. We want to be in our little comfort zone, but there's not going to be healing. If you don't go through the storm, you're not going to get to the rainbow. You just aren't. So once you have that door open, you got to walk through it, because on that other side may be something beautiful. Yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable and it's probably going to stink, but you will find a stronger, better you when you go through that door and see what's on the other side. But yeah, it may just be hard and stinky to go through. It will be. So that's why we kind of go, can I close the door back again? No, once it's open, you got a deal.
Now, why do you think there's such a huge stigma around it? We touched on a few of them, upbringing, sure. People that we're around, the community that we're in, and things like that. What seems to be the primary thing that people focus on when you mention the word mental health? Because for me, I've had men just look at me and go, "Oh no," but I get that. I get that to a certain extent because it's the macho man mentality, right? Mm-hmm. It's I have to be the manly strong man. I have to be strong and things like that. Mm-hmm. And I've actually seen the other side where some man would come out and embrace it, show that vulnerability, but I get more pushback.
Sure.
Anything, and I'm sure you do as well. So what seems be the biggest thing people say around that?
I think the biggest theme that I see, especially with my men that I work with, is they don't want to be seen as weak. They don't want to be seen as less than. They don't want to be seen as someone that can't be in control. And I touched on this a little bit earlier, but they want to be seen as they're the one that has it all, have the answers, they have it all under control.
Right.
So if they don't, what does that mean about me? Which is interesting, because it becomes very personal. So am I not the man that I thought I was, because now I can't have this under control?
Right.
Another theme that I hear from some of the men that I work with is they say, you know what, my grandmother, my auntie, my whoever wrote, that raised me would say, you're not praying hard enough. You need to make sure that you're working harder, you're praying harder, you're putting your eye on the goal. Whatever they're doing is not enough.
Right.
And that also makes them feel like, am I, again, not the man that I thought I was?
Right.
All of that is baloney. We were given a bill of goods that was not accurate. And in my upbringing, even, that was something you whisper about. Oh, the lady down the street, she's got some of those problems. My mom would whisper about it. So did my grandparents. That you just don't talk about that. They would talk about the person's cancer. They would talk about their, whatever kind of issues. But we don't talk about the mental illness. We don't talk about, that stuff. So that I found was interesting, and that's my upbringing, which I'm finding with my clients as well. That's just something that wasn't talked about. You just don't talk about that because that's kind of exposing that personal thing. So bring this back around. If it's something that's very personal you don't talk about, and that I'm supposed to have control over, I guess I must be doing something wrong. Where then I'm not going to talk to somebody about that. I'm not going to bring that to the surface if it's something that I'm not doing correctly,
Right.
which is baloney. Again, that's not the truth. That's not valid. And I find, because I have a group also, a men's group on Saturdays, that once someone opens that and just a crack, the shoulders, just the body language itself, the shoulders come down, and I can tell they don't feel alone now. Right. I see the nodding. I see the, and it just takes one to kind of open that and put a crack that, okay, well, he's showing that he's vulnerable and he's got stuff going on. Well, I'm not so alone. I guess I can talk a little bit. Not everybody divulges right away. It takes time. But you see a crack, and just letting someone in even a little bit, you kind of feel like, okay. And they've got, they're CEO of a company, or they're running a business, or they're just doing their life, but they've got something too. Okay, I'm not so alone. And that's what it takes. It takes just that little bit, even an inch, to know that you are not alone. Someone else has that same type of journey that you have.
Yeah.
It makes a difference. It makes a huge difference.
It really does. It's that old saying that people keep saying, and I've said it several times, it's finding your tribe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's that community, that the unspoken communities in the world, right? And there's so many of them out there, and I've seen them. I've been in the groups, and I've seen the groups, what the groups look like, and I'm going, you guys do have a lot in common with a lot of other people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe you should try talking with them, right? And what we did is that I'm so thankful for the work that you're doing. I really am, and man, when we talk about those things, I met a guy who runs Tether, who started Tether. And are you familiar with them?
I am. Mm-hmm.
So I know the guy, Zach, right? And
sure.
So he and I talked about the mental health aspect and how he had got into it and what the challenges were when he started trying to get men to open up about mental health. And I look at years later where he's at now, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm going, well, what's the difference between the approach that we take in this area than what most people take, right? Because those who actually understand the mental health aspect actually understands that you're going to have to take a lot of different approaches.
Sure.
And then those people who give up, why would someone give up on something like that if it's something that such a common thing? Is it the challenges of operating the business, or the mental health challenges that you go through of operating that business? Or
it's one of those things that I wish I had an easy answer, because many of the men in my group say, okay, just give me the 1, 2, 3, or give me the formula, give me the recipe, and I'll do it. And I'll do it. And I'll say, I wish I could. But you know what? When you come to the table with something, everybody has a wall, and each person has their own bricks that they have built in that wall. And I wish I had a formula or a recipe, but your bricks may look somewhat like that wall looks the same as some of the other people, but your bricks are very different. So if you've got trauma, if you've got grief, if you've got loss, whatever your bricks are, there's a different way to bring those bricks down. And it's not going to maybe work for, 2 or 3 of the men in the group, but it might work for the other 4 or 5. So I wish I had an easy recipe, but there isn't. It's getting really connected to, how did that wall come to be? How did those bricks be put one by one to build that wall? And that's how you bring it back down. You find out what was that cement that kept it together. And that's how you kind of take them apart. And sometimes they go right back up because people get scared or they're fearful, or you bring it down a little bit and go, no, this is getting too deep. This is getting too close, too personal. I'm not ready to bring it down. I feel safer because this is what I know. Right. So there's not an easy thing, but where you ask about why would they quit? The reason is, I know my wall. I'm comfortable with my wall because I've been walking through it, around it, with it for 20, 30 years. I start bringing it down. I don't know what will happen when that wall comes down, because I don't know my life without it. So that many times is why people quit. It's the fear of knowing the unknown without having that wall that you've been leaning, that you've had for years, where I say, lean on that wall. It's okay. That's for you to rest, possibly. Not that it has to be up to protect you or guard people away from you, but maybe it's there for you to rest and then slowly take down brick by brick.
Okay. I really, really like that. Now, let's talk of some of the more common symptoms or the commonalities of the mental health. Let's talk about some of those. What stands out to you the most that you run across?
Trauma. Yeah, it's you talked earlier about the words that parents can say to people, and they are powerful. And it's not only the parents in people's lives when they're developing, it's also coaches, it's also teachers. If a teacher says you are a loser and you're never going to be anything, the power that this person that you may idolize or you look up to, those words can stay with you for years. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that, well, I might have done okay with that, but remember, Mrs. Johnson had called me a loser, so I guess I'm a loser. Or a coach says something to you and that sticks with you. So the power that happens when you're developing, when you're younger, that stays with you and makes you the person that you are when you're an adult. So I would say trauma is the biggest theme that we have to overcome and deal with, because that's hard. That is hard to go way back and figure out where this all came from. And you think, oh my goodness, that can't be it. That was 30 years ago. That's not what it is. But you have labeled yourself because of what someone else has told you. So it does stay with you. It absolutely does. You fall and break something. You got that scar on your leg when you fell when you were 10. You still got that scar. You see it and you move on, and maybe you have a limp or you kind of just see that scar. That same thing happens on the inside to our hearts and our brains and our psyches, because you can't see the scar as well, but that still made an impression on who you are and who you're going to be.
That's very, very true. And I think well, I don't even think I actually seen this firsthand. I'm sure you've seen it too. People are really good at putting on masks behind that middle.
Oh, yes.
And it's such a, once I, it's funny because once I see my own mask, I realized that in order for me to see others' masks, I have to take mine off.
Say that one more time for me, Tony. Say it one more time, because that is huge.
Well, I said once I realized I had to take off my own mask, it allowed me to see other people's,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
see their mask.
Right.
And I was going, because I didn't realize it. I did not realize it this whole time. Once I became focused on this right here,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew that I was going to start this nonprofit, right? And at some point I knew I was going to start a podcast. I just didn't never know when. So I stayed so focused on that. Now, mind you, the mask, I only have two eyes, but all I can see is what's in front of me.
Sure.
Right? I'm not dealing with any of the stuff.
Right.
Now, the crazy part about this is, and I had to learn this the hard way, that it came back and bit me so hard in my ass.
Yep.
That I had to dig my feet into the ground to keep from getting pulled into, and then I realized I had no footing. But that mask, and I realized I was looking in the mirror one day. On the inside, I am hurt to death. I am depressed. I'm lonely. I am in a place where I don't wish no one to go to, but I know they do. And if this sounds anything like them, I do encourage people to reach out and get this help. But I was in that dark place that you were mentioning before.
Sure.
And I was there. And I just remember one day I looked into the mirror and I didn't even recognize. All I could see was the mask on my face. And I went,
wow.
No. And so, it's one of those things I want to pull it off, and it's not coming off.
Yeah.
Like, why won't it come off? Why? So then I started thinking to myself, maybe this is just who I am. Maybe this is just the way life is supposed to be, right? I had no purpose. I had no drive. I had no sense of direction. I didn't even know who I was supposed to be.
Sure.
That mask did all of that. And it wasn't until I surrendered to it, until I went, you know what? I'm done.
Yeah.
I don't know the person in front of this mirror right now. I don't recognize this person. Where did this person come from? Then I realized it was who I had been for quite some time. And it was the image underneath the mask that I wanted to see.
Yeah.
And I believe that curiosity, I just went, I'm just going to try.
Yeah.
It's the quick fixes.
It is.
When I do that, it's the quick fixes.
Right.
I need the 1, 2, 3.
Right.
I need somebody to give me a pill. I need somebody to give me a potion. Can I rub some lotion on it? I mean, it's
and it's done and done.
Yeah. Can I burn some sage or something?
Right. Right. And that's what we hope for. We do.
We hope for it. Do somebody got some oils that I can use and all these different things, right? And then I was like, hey, dummy, look at what you're doing. So then that's self-talk, right? I just started off by saying, hey, dummy, right? And I was going, but I'm not a dummy.
No.
Right? I'm highly intelligent. Why am I doing this? First step. Being self-aware of my talk. Then I went, I need to take a breather.
Yeah.
So I started to grasp these tools that I developed along the way, but never understood what they were there for. So it was something just said, relax, breathe.
Yeah.
Concentrate on that. Now, focus your energy on pulling the mask off, but don't use force.
Right.
Well, that's a really good way of doing it. So how am I supposed to get off the mask, right? And something said you've already started.
Yeah.
Already changed one word in your self-talk. Now try changing another. And then slowly but surely, I was able to peel it off. And when I peeled it off, there was this sense of openness of what my mental health was actually doing to me. And I became more aware of my actions. I became more aware of what I was feeling. And I started admitting to myself, like when I wasn't doing well, I had to admit to myself first before I was able to admit to someone else. And people may think that that's an easy thing, but it really isn't. When you have to look at yourself and go, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's being real. And there's nothing easy about being real.
Yeah, but that's what it was. I had to be totally honest with myself, and once I admitted it, I had to take responsibility. And I think that's where those steps came from,
Mm-hmm.
and walking in my mental health and really actually diving into it and going, hmm, there's another level to this.
Yeah.
But I realized I was going backwards as well, right?
Right.
It
Right.
traced me all the way back to my childhood.
Mm. Yep.
And I went, well, I'm here. I am a grown man. I can't live like this,
Right.
But the crazy part about it is that I was.
And who knew any different? Because that was the road you were on, whether it was graveled or paved or whatever, that was your road. And that's what you knew. So how did you know anything different? Until you took a look and actually did some self-actualizing and realizing, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be this anymore.
Right.
It's interesting that you bring up masks, Tony, because I find a number of men and women, but once they take off a mask, they're not sure what to do with what's underneath.
Right.
So many times I will see people put on a different mask. It might not be the same one, but you know what? This is too bare. This is too scary. Now I'm going to put on this mask. And this mask is, I drink every day after work now. Never really did before, but okay, I'm going to do this mask because I'm going to be the jolly one now, because that's another mask I don't have to deal. Or I'm going to deal with this mask where I'm at the gym every single day for 3 hours a day, because when I had that mask off, I wasn't real comfortable with what I was seeing. So we have to be really careful, because when you take that mask off, it does show you the realness of you. And many people are not ready. They think they are, and they take it off too soon. They haven't worked through it, or have really changed that mindset of like, nope, I'm ready to take the mask off. They take it off and go, ooh, that was too scary. I don't want to go back to where I was, but I'm going to try something else. And they put a different mask on. So then it's like, oh my goodness, we're still dealing with the same trauma, the same things that you had that original mask on, but now we've added to it. Now we've got a whole plethora of masks. Okay, how about we get rid of all the masks and just try it? Lift a corner up, just a corner, and see how that feels, that air on your face, so to speak. Because that's scary. That's scary stuff.
It's a dangerous place to be if you don't understand.
For sure. And that's why if you can reach out to help and have somebody go along on that journey with you, because it is scary. It is scary. Yeah.
Oh man, God, so many things going through my head right now, because it's like, man, listening to you talk about replacing one mask with another.
Mm-hmm.
All I can do is chuckle, because I did it. I've done it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I've been right there. One mask comes off. Now I got to take off the mask that says I'm a tough guy. Put on the mask that says I'm a gym guy now.
Mm-hmm.
And hearing you say that, I just, I don't know. Part of me is just want to bust out and start laughing, because that's exactly what I did.
Mm-hmm.
Get rid of, I'm hiding the trauma, right? I'm hiding my grief. And when I thought that I had that one taken care of, I put on the mask and said, I'm gonna stay in the gym. But I had another idea in mind when I did that. It was because I got tired of people asking me if I was okay.
Sure.
In my world, you're supposed to already know that I'm not okay. Did you not know? Did you not see what I just went through?
Right.
And I'm going, why would you ask me a stupid question like this? Okay, since you want me to be okay and I'm not okay, I can play this game too.
Right.
I'll get myself really, really healthy. I'm going to stay in the gym. That way, I don't have to worry about you asking me any dumb questions. Are you okay?
Right.
But then I realized once I peeled that mask off, they wasn't asking me to sugarcoat it. That's what I thought that they wanted. I wanted to tell them what they wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Because I was too afraid to face it. And when I took that mask off and I looked at it, I had to look at it face to face, and I had to just go, how did no one see this?
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted someone to just see me,
Right.
right? I wanted them to see that I was hurting.
Yeah.
I wanted so bad. And I seen this quote, and I even recognized this before I seen this quote. Sometimes I want someone to see me, hear me say that it's okay, grab me and say, no, you're not.
Mm. Wow. What that would have done had someone done that for
Right,
you.
right.
My goodness. Yeah.
And no one did.
Yeah.
And then again, we add on top of that the stigma, the taboo statement behind all of these things that constitute what mental health is. And it makes me feel like as if they're trying to put us into a box, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And go, we're just going to throw all the crazy people in here.
Yep.
Well, and I use that word very, very loosely, but when you think about it, when someone, just like your parents, and your grandparents when you were young, we don't talk about the person.
Whispering. Yeah.
Whispering,
Yeah.
right? But when you hear them refer to people, and we still do it throughout the generations, and so they go, the crazy person,
Mm-hmm.
that person's crazy. Now, being someone who does grief and trauma work now, I realize
Mm-hmm.
that we're not crazy.
Right.
We just need a little extra. We need a little extra help.
Yeah. And don't we all?
Yeah,
And don't we all?
and that's what we're starting to find out. More people are starting to come out and realize that, hey, I'm not the only one that needs a little extra help. You do too. But
Yeah.
the thing about it is that now that I can see you without your mask on, I want to walk with you. I want to sit with you too. Because I
Mm.
want to invite you into my space. I want you to sit with me, right? I want this community that we have, this understanding now that we have. I want to see, how we can learn from one another, because this healing process, I understand now that I can't do it alone and you
Right.
can't do it alone. So why not just do it together,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then
Yeah.
when you get to that point where you're strong enough, I believe that you reach over and you grab the next person or hold them on their shoulder and go, hey, my man, look, I see you,
Mm-hmm.
right? I ask, and you can fight it all, but I see you. But once you feel my hand, that you realize that, hey, you're part of this connection
Right.
that we have. And is that the same thing that you see around the board as well, where people start to reach out to one another, grabbing on their shoulders, saying, hey, I've been right where you are. Let's walk this path together, because there's some things that I have that I can give you.
Oh, absolutely. I see that a lot. And so many people will say in a group, well, you won't understand or they won't understand. And you had mentioned the word tribe earlier, but I think it's super important to know that I don't have to have walked, none of us have to have walked in those same shoes, but we've also had shoes that have led us to where we are. Again, mine could be different pair, different whatever, sizes, different, but we've all had shoes that we've had to walk through on this path. So we get it. We get it. And that's about leaning into one another and letting you know, I got you. I may not know exactly what you're going through, but because I've gone through my own trials, I get it. And I've got you. I've got you. And knowing that someone has you, you can just breathe. You can breathe. And the other thing that's the beauty of a community or a tribe is not only someone gets you or someone is there for you, they keep you accountable. Hey, let's back up again. You're starting to do that talk again, or maybe they're seeing that mask going back on again, and you kind of go, listen, we're not going to that area of BS anymore. This is our spot of real. So sometimes I'll ask people, you might have to get off the screen for a little bit and come back and join me in a little bit, because I'm seeing something that's not tearing down all the work you've been doing.
Right.
And this group wants you here, not that other person you're trying to bring. So either join us next week or, come in a little bit. And it sounds rough around the edges, but we're about being real with each other.
Right.
And so don't bring your BS here. That's not it. So that's the beauty of a tribe and a community. Not only am I going to be there for you, but I'm also going to keep you accountable, because guess what? You're worth it. And I'm going to tell you the truth because you deserve it. Because that's what I want from you too. Because if I'm doing it wrong, not wrong, but I'm not bringing my best, I want you to call me on it. I want you to call me on it, because I expect you to be that friend for good and for not so good days.
Right. Yeah, let's dive into some of the addiction associated with the mental health as well, because I've seen my fair share. I've seen people, I mean, on meth, heroin, coke, you name it. You know, the addiction aspect, and I also look at that as a very, very dangerous mask that people wear
Oh, absolutely.
to try to cover up what's going on. And I've
Yeah.
seen people go I've seen people go downhill fast. I've been one of those. I'm an alcoholic, right? You know, I just choose not to drink anymore because I have no desire for it.
Yeah.
But I did go down that road,
Hmm.
and what I didn't realize, and I used to blame everything else
Sure.
except for my own choices, right? I used to first off say, well, it just takes away the pain. It just numbs it. It helps me sleep.
Hmm.
That was a really good one. It just helps me sleep while I'm battling my demons over here,
Hmm.
silently in a corner, in a
Yeah.
in the corner of my own brain. Right? No one can see them except for me. No one can hear the voices except for me. And I'm thinking to myself, if I drink enough, I don't have to hear them. That way, I'm not feeling like I'm going crazy.
Right.
Right? You
Right.
know what I'm saying? I always when I started hearing the voices in the back of my head telling me, you know, hey, this is what's going on, man. I used to think to myself, I'm going crazy because I'm hearing voices and I'm actually talking to myself now. I am literally going crazy. So I drink and I go, oh, I don't hear it anymore. Then the voices started coming through and I went, don't like that. I'm gonna have to switch the alcohol to something stronger.
Right.
But I didn't realize that people that was watching me, right? So I was able to look at it from another point of view. Someone said, hey man, you're drinking a lot nowadays. Are you okay?
Mm.
I had been so used to so many people not caring about how or what I was going through. My first answer was, I'm okay.
Mm.
So common across the board. I'm okay.
Yeah.
And the person looked at me and said, well, if you're okay, then put down a bottle.
Mm.
And I went, I'm okay. Why would I have to put down a bottle?
Hmm.
You know, here I am again, right?
Yeah.
And they go, I've never seen you like this before. I said, well, this is the new me. Yeah,
Mm.
man. It was not, it was every excuse that I can come up with, right? And without taking responsibility for it,
Yeah.
because I had an outlet that ended up manifesting itself in a different way.
Yeah.
Right.
It really did.
I was never into the hardcore drugs. That was just never me. Right. But then that other addiction, I became, you know, I was MMA fighter. So that part of me was already there. And I went,
Sure.
well, I can mask this. Let's go jump in it. Let's jump in the ring. You know, I can mask this. But in my mind, I wasn't really saying that. I could hear it. But in my mind was, I'm going to hurt this dude as much as I'm hurting because
Oh, yeah.
and it was a way I realize now it was a way for me to get him to understand a fraction of the pain that I was going through.
Mhm.
I don't know this person from Adam. Not
Right.
the name on a dotted line. That means that I can pretty much do whatever I want to you, and you you're not going to understand why I'm doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my whole perspective on that changed, and I had to tell myself I have to stop fighting because if
Yeah.
not, I'm going to hurt somebody really, really bad, or I'm going to allow them to hurt me,
Right.
depending on where I am mentally in the
Yeah.
game. Yeah, and
Yeah.
so I went, yeah, I gotta stop doing that, right?
Yeah. Because the intent had changed.
Yeah, my
And
intent changed,
mhm.
and so I became intentional of hurting people,
Sure.
relationships, right? Horrible, you know. The many challenges that come up with mental health and relationships. That's a fascinating one for me because I've been a victim of sabotage in my own relationships, right?
Mhm.
And did more damage because I didn't want to take responsibility, and the ego kicked in and said, hey, why not? She's going to do it to you,
Right.
right? It's so
And
many.
we see that. We see that quite often
Yeah.
because if you've had trauma in your life, you know bad is coming. So you think bad is coming. So you know what? I might as well drink until I pass out. or I might as well do drugs, or I might, because you know what? It's going to end up being bad anyway. And this relationship I'm in, I really like her, and she seems to like me a little too much, but she doesn't really know who I am. So I'm going to make sure to make this difficult so that I'm going to choose that she's not going to enjoy me. She's not going to like me, and I'm going to have it end because it's going to end anyway. And then at least this way I have control, and I knew it was going to end anyway. So we have this self-fulfilling prophecy of it's all going to be crap anyway. So I might as well help it along that way because that's the way it's going to end up anyway.
Right.
Which, wow. But that all comes from the trauma because that's just been my life. So that's how it is. Again, that gravel road or paved road that we go down is what we know. So I might as well just help it along down this road because I know where this goes. I know where this road goes. I have the map. I own it. I wrote it. So I know where it goes. So let me just help it along.
I feel the same way. I felt I made that path. I blazed on it for a little bit. And I was going, okay, I know what to expect. And talking to you, it puts everything into perspective. Things that I already knew teeter-tottered around, but never really grasped onto a solid answer, right? And then I get it now. I was trying to control the situation.
Yeah.
But also, it opened up the door to a question of why. Right? And that's exactly what it just did for me. It opened up the question to why was I this person, right? But why did I treat things this way? And sure enough, the first heartbreak, right? You know what I'm saying? Because as a man growing into society, the first person that you meet is your mother. She becomes the love of your life. She can do no wrong.
Of course.
What mothers forget to teach young men is that there's women out there, and sometimes relationships don't work, right? We live in this fantasy world where, you know what I'm saying? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to settle down, find somebody, fall in love, have a huge family, this, that, another. But no one ever taught me what happens when it doesn't work out that way, right? I have a hurt heart now. I have a hurt heart. At that time, I used the word broken. I have a broken heart. So in that time, I learned a valuable lesson. And many more after that, right? It was the different people that I kept choosing because you cannot choose a healthy individual if you're not healthy.
No, we don't attract that.
No, you will attract the same person of you. And then you get mad when the things are done to you, right? And it's just mind-boggling because I got mad. I was like, well, I'm being a good man. Why we got to go through all of this?
Right. Why does this continue to happen to me? I don't understand. Because you're picking the same person.
Exactly.
Because that's what you're attracted to, someone that's much like you. So, yeah. And we wonder, why does it keep happening? I don't understand. I'm a good person. But you're bringing in the energy that you put out. You're bringing that right back to you. So, yeah, that's what we know.
It's such an insane thing because and the reason why I use that term because of the definition of it. When you repeat things over and over and over again, expecting different results, that's the definition of insanity. So yes, I was doing some insane things. You know what I'm saying? Let's be honest with it. When I can go through multiple relationships and they all end up the same way, and I can blame them for everything. You're right. So now I'm diving into being a narcissist. I can't take responsibility for myself or my own actions because it's your fault. And I had to learn that definition and how it coincides with mental health as well, right?
Right.
I'm not a narcissist. On the other hand, am I? That's a hell of a place to be. Right? Because I'm over here doing this. Hey, dummy, look at what you're doing over here. Same thing. Remember, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's over and over and over. So, okay, I have to take responsibility because I make bad choices.
Yeah.
That's another one I had to admit.
Yeah.
I was making bad choices, right?
Yeah.
And then I was blaming everyone else for the bad choices. And then I looked at it and I had a deep conversation with an ex-girlfriend of mine. I said, what happened to us? And she told me, she goes, well, if you don't remember, you started an argument with me. Never gave me the chance to explain anything. And when I turned around, you were gone. You blocked me from your phone. And I said, first and foremost, I have to apologize.
Mhm.
I did not know what I knew now. And so therefore that was not your fault. So I had to take responsibility for that, right? And
Yeah.
I had to tell myself, I said, this, I have to do something different.
Right. Right.
I do, because if not, I'm going to drive myself crazy, right? And I can't keep doing this over here. This is really unhealthy. I'm connecting with unhealthy people and expecting a healthy relationship. So again, one of those things, the mental health aspect came in there. And you hit the nail on the head. I was searching for women who were exactly like me, and I hated the fact that they were like me,
Right.
because I wanted them to be different.
Right. Right. But that's not who you picked. That's
No.
not who you picked. Yeah. And it's funny, Tony, because you had touched on addiction, and sometimes people get addicted to that high of the hunt of finding, she's good looking, he's good looking, or whatever. And that's addicting in itself. Mm-hmm. And then you get to a point, well, I got him. I got the high. And now what do I do? Where it used to take 2 drinks, now it takes 3. It used to take 2 months, now it took 1 to get that person. So we get addicted to whatever that is that gives you that false high. We're still not dealing with ourselves. And then what we do, especially with relationships, we take a look and go, well, they're not filling my needs. They're not making me happy. They're not. Where in truth and reality, we're not happy with ourselves. That's why we're drinking. That's why we're doing drugs. That's why we're picking people that aren't really good for us. Because guess what? We need to fill those gaps for ourselves and feel like we're healthy and taking care of our mental health before we have any business of looking for somebody else to try to fill those gaps. That's not their job. That is not their job. It is your job to be okay with you. But till we get there, which is a long journey, it's one of those things that we continue in the habits that we're used to doing. Because again, to tie this in a bow, it's a heck of a lot of work to do the work.
Yeah. And man, that is amazing. Now, we talked a little bit about relationships as well, and I've seen people who suffer from mental health,
Mm-hmm.
Even the slightest little bit, relationships are they're messy, right? Mm-hmm. Once you add that component in there, and I guess for the longest time, I thought, relationships were supposed to be simple, mm-hmm. right? You find someone, they're crazy about you, mm-hmm. And you're supposed to grow old with this person, right? Mm-hmm. That was the concept. That's the American dream. No problems, because when you see it on TV, you got the white picket fence, you got the beautiful house, you got the, depending on what you're going for and what your American dream looks like.
Sure.
And that's what it all did. What I didn't know is that on the inside of the house, and I think we talked. Did you say something about the mortar, right? Mm-hmm. And what's the mortar like in this house? You know what I'm saying? What's holding this house together? Mm-hmm. And I realized that it didn't matter how successful people were. The mess was still the same. And I just found out that more rich people were able to hide it with money, and more, of the lower class and middle class people couldn't afford to hide it. Mm-hmm. So again, that whole thing, why are we, why are we looking at each other like we're strangers, in a house? And I've seen marriages. I've seen marriages just fall apart. I've seen relationships between parents and kids and brothers and sisters just fall apart. Yeah. What is the main cause of that? Because when I was raised under a really good tight-knit family, right? Mm-hmm. And I was the one who moved away, right? Mm-hmm. It's that I had a lone wolf mentality ever since I was a child, and I just knew I just wanted to be alone. I just didn't know why, right? Mm-hmm. And so I moved clear across the world, well, not across the world, but across the United States. Sure. From Virginia, I ended up in Colorado. Mm-hmm. 1,750 miles away. And I'm going, well, what made me do that? And I am in my late 40s now, right?
Yeah.
And I'm still here. But now I find that I communicate a lot better with my younger sister, right? Because she's all I got left now.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the root cause of that? I mean, for me, I could say I tried to protect my sister, but I think that's just an excuse.
Why do you think you moved away? Is that what you're asking me?
No.
Or why do you think?
Why do that? When a person is struggling with mental health, considering that these people are your family, how does those relationships fall apart?
Well,
Over a period of time.
Well, I think relationships as a whole, we in our society do a disservice because, that movie or that TV show or whatever, that's all scripted.
Yeah.
And that house that you're talking about, you open that door, it could blow over in a second because there's really nothing to it. There's not a structure there, and also on social media, people are posting left and right about all these beautiful things. They're not posting about, I just swore at my husband and he's driving me crazy today. That's a rarity. So we get this fallacy of that everybody's doing it right and we somehow are struggling, and why can't we get it together? Right. Where the reality is the opposite. Everybody's got stuff going on, but nobody really talks about it. Here we go again. We're keeping up this facade. So I think we do a disservice in this community because we're not real. So we think it's supposed to be like the movies. Well, I don't have a script. My partner doesn't have a script. My kids don't have a script. And we don't have a movie set. The place might be a mess, whatever. But life is messy. And that's not shown very often. And if it is, it's kind of like, that's wonderful that we can see that. But again, that's a rarity that you see it either on social media or on movies or on TV. So I think sometimes we expect so much from our relationships. And when it doesn't occur that way, we kind of go, well, in TV, it all looked good. So I don't know why you can't do your part because I know I'm doing it just like the actors. Well, are you? I don't think so. No. So I think we really do a disservice to this community. We're not real. And the thing about, relationships and moving away, I moved away as well. And I have stronger relationships when I'm not in the mess day to day. Mm-hmm. I come from a Hispanic family and we're in each other's business all the time. And that's just how I was raised. People are knocking on the door, coming in, they got a plate of enchiladas and tacos, and here we are. Let's play poker and let's talk and let's just get into each other's business. I needed to be away from that for my mental health. I go back and visit. I'm very close with my family. However, I had to get to the reality that I didn't have a scripted family. I didn't have, the Leave It to Beaver, the Brady Bunch, or any of that. I didn't have that. And I needed to know it was okay because that's not real. It is not real. But what I have now, when I say that hurt my feelings to a sibling or to a parent or whatever, that's real. And they might get mad at me, but guess what? Because we're real now with each other, we say, I'm so sorry. Or I get the, mijita, please forgive me. Or, that's the real. And that is closer than anything that's been scripted or anything I see on TV. But I needed to have some distance to kind of go, these people are important to me. And I make sure I go back and forth or I'm on FaceTime with them all the time. But I think it takes some of that distance to kind of find the reality of yourself and your relationships to kind of get a better view. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. And I love that you use Leave It to Beaver, the Brady Bunch and all of those, because that's from a generation when I grew up as well. Right? So looking at it on TV and things like that, it was, like you said, it's totally scripted, right? And coming from a family where we grew up poor, I used to look at Leave It to Beaver and go, well, he needs to come and visit my house because I got cockroaches this big hanging out on the wall, right? Singing me a lullaby while I'm trying to get upstairs.
Exactly.
Like that's real, right? When you come into the house and you get robbed by the cockroach, you in it now.
Exactly. You don't see that on TV. Yeah.
It's nothing like that. So, but it was, I think it was a great place to escape, to fantasize about what life looked outside of there, even though you have no experience. It was a great place to dream.
Right.
You know, it was a good place to want to come home to, and and see mom and dad sitting at the table, happy family. Me and my sister would sit down and do homework and stuff like that together. No fighting, maybe argue a little bit. Nah, no, they need to come visit my house. They would understand that me and my sister, we fought all the doggone time. Fried chicken was a staple. Okay.
Oh yeah. Shoes were flying at each other's head.
Oh my God!
I remember seeing, Tony, on one of the shows. They all had their own beds, and I thought, what? Huh? They're not sharing a bed with their siblings, and they like have more than 1 or 2 bedrooms in their house. They have to be so rich. I mean, I didn't even know that existed. So yeah, for sure. And chicken was cheap. So yeah, that's what we ate. So there was fighting all the time.
Yeah, well, you can spend 75 cents for a pack of chicken. Your refrigerator is full of chicken and hot dogs and bologna, right?
Absolutely. Spam. Bologna and spam.
Bologna, spam. What was bologna, spam, hot dogs. Hot ramen was good.
Yes.
Spaghetti was very cheap at the time too. 15 cents a pack. Rice was even better. I think that was like 10 cents for a 5-pound bag when I was a kid, right?
Yep.
So of course, we had all of these things. I'm a growing kid, so of course, this is like we party time now. We're gonna have some bologna, some fried bologna with some welfare cheese on it because it's hard to cook and melt down.
Exactly. Yep, standing in the line for the welfare cheese.
You gotta stay in your lane, right? Yeah. You gotta stay in your lane. Vegetables consisted of beans and French fries.
Yeah. Well, see, it was rice and beans in my house because I was Hispanic. So that's just what we did. Yeah.
I learned to have a strong dislike for beans as I got older. Right. Okay. Chicken, I can't say I'm not going to take that away. I still like chicken. Right. Yep. I just don't like it the way my mama used to cook it.
Great. Isn't that funny? I know.
Because I realized she burnt a lot of food.
They did. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. That's it.
That is truly amazing though, because I can sit back on it now and I can talk to my sister about these things now. And, I'm very open and honest with her. She's my younger sister. We're all that we have left.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's parts of me, I had to tell my sister, we had to have a heart to heart because I realized that my life, she did not know me. She knew the different versions of my life as I was struggling through my mental health.
Sure.
Unknowingly. Right. So my sister have these images of me, or used to have these images of me as she saw me as I went back home to visit, the first time that she saw me after I left, I had long hair, I'm tattooed up. Now I'm in the gangs, right? I don't care nothing about anything, right? I'm selling drugs, I'm fighting all the time, fast cars, fast women, doing everything I can possibly do. In the realms of going to prison, right? And that's what it was leading up to.
Sure.
Knowing, the things, when my sister saw that, she didn't see the story behind that, right? She didn't see the anger that I kept with me because I kept my childhood away from her. And because I didn't want her to know what happened to me. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have an excuse why I left home. I just knew I was going to leave home as a way of protecting myself and protecting her as well. Right. Yeah. And I realized they wouldn't touch her. They were coming after me. I was going, okay. So I had to become a protector of myself. Mm-hmm. And I was willing to have my family hate me for my decision because I was so afraid of telling them what happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my sister saw me in my early 20s, long hair, tattooed up, not caring. I got to get back out here because this is where I feel comfortable. And I realized that the reason why I did it is that it allowed me to be angry.
Yeah.
It gave me an excuse to harm someone else. Mm-hmm. Right. It just too many excuses in that. And then when my sister saw me again, I had just got out of prison and I was homeless. Now, and I told my sister, I said, now I look back, I said, when I came back here, when I got out of prison, I was pretty much homeless. You guys provided me the airplane ticket to go back to the place where I was homeless. I didn't feel welcome at home because no one said, hey, you should stay. And that's all they had to do was say, hey, just stay. You have family here. No, they gave me a ticket. I came right on back here and was homeless on the street for 2 years. Right? Get off the streets. I'm doing good. Then I go into alcoholism. So now my sister sees me again because I go back home to visit, see my family. I'm an alcoholic, full blown. They accepted that. And I'm going, too much. And I left and came back to a place where I'm homeless, where I'm alcoholic now, right? Around the right friends. You attract those people. And when I broke off from there, I became homeless again.
Yeah. And
it wasn't until now, this is where it gets interesting because now I fell into a whole new crowd, right? You know what I'm saying? The pimps. The pimps, right? And when I say that, most people will frown, right? And I would go, you can frown all you want, but I had to learn how to survive.
Right.
It means necessary. Selling drugs was out of the question. I can't go back to gang banging because I just left that.
Right.
Now I'm an alcoholic, but I'm broke.
So now what do I do?
What do I do? Right. Yeah. So one of the friends I knew from a long time ago saw me and was like, dude, this is not you. I went, what do you mean? He goes, man, I remember when I first saw you, man, you was fly. You had money. You was doing this, that, and another. I said, man, I had to get that up. Then, okay, what are you doing now? Well, I'm trying to figure it out. Well, till you figure it out, let's roll together. Let me show you my lifestyle. I know you don't agree with it and everything, you know what I'm saying? But just let me show you. Let me take care of you for a little bit. So now my mental health is, man, this dude wants me around.
I'm accepted by someone.
And they may seem like the scum of the earth to other people for their chosen profession that they choose to do. Right. You know what I'm saying? And then we realize that the mental health aspects that go along with that it takes a lot of damaged mentality to damage someone else's mentality. Right. And that was a realization once I got into it. I'm 2 years into it. I'm living a life that most people don't live. I'm making thousands of dollars on a daily basis. I'm talking about 20, 30,000 a day, right? Yeah. Who wouldn't love something like that? But then it's the mentality of control.
Yeah.
Then I had a realization. If my mother, my sister, or my grandmother saw me doing any of this, they would kick my ass. Put it slightly, right? And I don't want to do that anymore. So I gave up. Everything. Sacrifice. Went homeless again.
Yeah.
I went. And now, if you notice, it's a common trend, right? You know what I'm saying? So why are my kids still going homeless?
Yeah.
And I realized someone told me a long time ago, easy come, easy go. You getting out of it what you put into it.
Yeah.
You got to realize this lifestyle is fast. So if you're making fast money, of course, you know what I'm saying? Eventually
you're going to lose it fast too.
It has to come faster, right? You know what I'm saying? But the mental aspect of all of that, the mental health of what it takes to do something like that has helped mold me into who I am now, right? I can look at myself in the mirror and say, man, I love you.
Yeah.
I can. When a person asks me, now when they ask me, what makes me different from anyone else? I said, I don't know what makes me different from anyone else, but I'm fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, let's put it out there. Let's be real, right? You know what I'm saying? If I don't believe in myself like that, who do I expect to believe in me?
Right.
And then we have people like yourself that are doing the work and giving people the courage to believe in themselves and things like that. Let's discuss some of the tools that you use to help people find that courage and believing in themselves like that. You know what I'm saying? And understanding their mental health and understanding the path that they're on.
Yeah. First and foremost, people have to, if they've got addictions, they've got to work through that because that's always going to be a cover up. And you don't get down to it. But once they get to that point, then they can kind of look at the reality of who they are, and they may not know. It may be years of addiction and different things that have covered it all up. So once you get down to, okay, I'm ready, I feel like I can actually do the work, that's the biggest step. Then the next step is kind of taking a look at, okay, we got to deal with some of the hurts in your past and move on from that, because that you carry with you. So once you can start doing that, and that that feeling worthy is huge. You got to get rid of the guilt and the shame of whatever your journey was. That's what it is. It's a was. That's in the rearview mirror. Your front mirror is much bigger than the rearview mirror on purpose. So you got to look ahead. You can't be looking behind. What you've gone through has made you who you are. So I'm not saying that, okay, that let's forget about that. That's not what I'm saying. But can you take whatever you've been through, put it behind you, but yet use that towards making sure that you are a better you as you go forward? Because we all have our journeys. And if you just say, oh, just forget about it. No, you earn those scars, those badges of honor, those whatever you went through. And if you don't learn from it, then it was a waste. But if you take that, whatever it was, leave the guilt and the shame behind with it, you move forward using what you've learned from that, then that is a gift. So as you move forward from that past, what can you use to make you a better you? The other thing that I think people get very anxious nowadays because their expectations of, okay, now I gotta make sure that I'm in control. I'm taking my meds, or I'm doing my therapy, or I'm doing this, and they just can't live up to the expectations, not only from outside themselves but within themselves. That is a struggle. You got to do what you can do. And so I do a lot of goal setting with my clients. And they might look like really tiny goals, but when you have met a goal, there is nothing like the celebration of meeting even the smallest goal, whether it's an hour a day, that first month, whatever it is. Meeting goals is what gets you to that next step. So I do a lot of goal setting. I do a lot of mindfulness, just seeing where you are, calming yourself, seeing how you can center yourself, whatever that might be. And I touched on going to the gym, doing different things. That's not a negative thing at all. It's if it's masking something else. Right. But if that's how you connect, is being out in nature or working out or what, that's great. Have that within you. But we all have a toolbox that we need to be banked on, because it's not if we have a bad day, it's when we have a bad day. How can you go into that toolbox and go, okay, I got to do my breathing, or I got to make sure to get out in nature and go for a walk, or maybe I got to get on in my car or go on my motorcycle, whatever it is that you have found out has worked for you in a positive manner, not in that negative realm. We're not going there again, but in a positive manner, then you got to dig into those. And that takes time too, to kind of build up what works for you. So yeah, it's a lot of little steps, but it's about finding you, really working on you.
Very nice. Very, very nice. How can people get a hold of you?
I have a website, and then I also have a book that I've written, and that has tools towards the back. So as an occupational therapist, I'm always working with people, not just goal setting, but coping skills and anxiety and some depression and just a number of different diagnoses. But it's really just about dealing with what's happened to you and trying to move on from that. Right. So I can give you all that. But if you go to my website, www.sandirae, SANDIRAE, coach.com, that has a number of different links. And then the back of my book as well talks about the Trevor Project, about contacting NAMI. There's organizations that I work with. Mm-hmm. The book is On the Other Side, A Brown Girl Journey, Finding Hope. So either of those would be great. And then I also do telehealth too. So just look me up, send me an email, or the links on my website. That'd be great. I'd love it.
Now, do you have a copy of the book that you can put up for everybody to see?
I do, and I can give you one too to kind of send it. So, yep, just walking through that door. I put a door on there because, man, there's nothing like, you and I have used that analogy a number of times. It's about taking the steps and having the courage to walk through that door. Man, just putting your hand on that knob is scary, and thinking, oh, okay, I keep touching that knob and I don't know if I can. That's the first step. Putting your hand on the knob and kind of pushing through and seeing if you can get on to the other side. That's the biggest thing.
Very nice. Because I really would love to read that. Just talking to you, I'm just going,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
there's so many things that I'm still learning, right? And after talking with you, I'm like, man, she makes so much sense. And I guess I
Good.
just, there's some things that I'll make a connection to, and then there's, some things that people help me make a connection to. So
Sure.
I love
Sure.
that, right? Because I'm taking everything that I've asked. I'm just going, okay, I understood that. Now I have something else to add to my proverbial toolbox, right?
Right.
And I don't know whether or not if it's going to be for me or for the
Yeah.
next person that I encounter, but I
Right.
know that is there because I could, it's like, man, that's good stuff, man. That's feeding yourself,
Right.
and taking those things that you're contributing and putting it out on the front seat and saying, hey, here's what I'm going to offer you on a silver platter.
Yep.
Take from it what you need.
Right.
And then give the
Right.
rest of it to the next person because they may
Exactly.
need that,
Exactly. That's why I like calling it really a toolbox. And that's not something new. It's been said before. But what
right.
I like it is just like you had talked about earlier, having tools, but you didn't know how to use them. Well, there are different tools for different seasons of life. So for now, these are the tools that work for me. In my next season, those may no longer work for me. And I may have to dig in that toolbox again and go, you know what? Sandi Rae had mentioned something about, mindfulness or about yoga or about whatever it might be.
Mm.
And that's digging in that toolbox again. I'm going to try that because what was working before is I'm a different person than I was months ago or years ago. I'm going to try. And that's why that toolbox is really nice to have because that's yours. No one can take that away from you, but you can dig depending on the season of your life or whatever stage you're in.
And see, I love that because you touched on mindfulness. I've now become a student of mindfulness, right?
Mm-hmm.
We just got done teaching a class about mindfulness and trauma not too long ago,
Yeah.
right? And I was the facilitator because they were like, "Hey, you do grief and trauma, right?" And I didn't realize what I was these things again, digging into that toolbox.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
As I'm putting this thing together, because I'm going, okay, what does this thing consist of? And the light went off and say, hey, look inside of there. It's right there. And I pulled it out. I'm going, I never knew what holding space was for a person, right? Yeah. Then I learned that I had been doing it for quite some time. Mm-hmm. And then being attentive. And then understanding where my place was as a visitor in that space.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And I'm going, whoa, I didn't know I knew all of these things. But now that we have words to them,
right.
I kept trying to add sophisticated words to them. I was like, well, this is not holding space. We're just in the cloud.
Right.
Awesome. No, I'm in space, right?
Right. Right.
I used to tell people, no, I'm just a student. And then I realized I was being observant and attentive.
Yeah. There you go.
Right.
There you go.
And then
you're doing the work. You just didn't have the label.
I didn't have the labels because I was like, I'm not putting a label on this. I wouldn't want nobody to label me,
Right. Right.
Because that label would be bad. We're not even going to touch that one. Right. We're not even going to right. And I'm just going, it's my mind is just going, hey, remember that what we learned a couple of years ago? Like, yeah, that's what she's talking about.
Yeah, right.
That's what she's talking about. Remember when she was talking about that door, then you talked about that. That's what she's talking about. Mm-hmm. Those people sitting right there.
Yeah.
Pay attention to it. And I'm going, that makes perfect sense, right?
Yeah, and, look at that. Woo!
Makes perfect sense. Like I said,
that.
There you go. I'm a student. I'm a student. If I'm not learning something from anything, or if I'm not giving something to anyone, I don't feel right. Right. And it's the sense of servitude that I developed over time as I started to tap into my own gift and begin to manifest myself into this world. Right. Yeah. It's like, man, I love that right there. I'm so bold as to where I want to meet myself in 5 years, right? And I'm going to hold myself accountable. So, but whatever that looks like along the journey, the people that I meet along the way, I want to make sure that our meeting is intentional.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to miss the lessons that you can give me. Mm-hmm. right? You know, so I'm like, and my brain is just going, another one, another one, another one, right? But that's what we do. That's what we do. And
Yeah,
I do believe that's the purpose of us connecting the way that we have, and connecting with people around us
absolutely.
like that.
Absolutely.
And with that being said, if you had some words of encouragement to tell someone going through something right now, what would you have, let them know?
Um, know that you are worthy. Because I think we all have some tough times, whether we've been in tough times or are presently in tough times. You're worthy of being here, and you have a purpose. It may not look like it right now, but whatever you've been through, there are days ahead. So look forward if you can, and just I know I've repeated myself, but worthiness is one of those things that if we believe what others say about us, that is a rabbit hole that you can go down. Know that you're supposed to be here. So find where you can find joy, and and find your worthiness. Absolutely. So
Very, very nice. And with that being said, I want to tell everybody thank you for tuning in. And if any of this resonates with you, all the links to these support lines, to these other organizations will be listed down below, as well as Sandra Rae's. Her information will be there as well. Reach out to her. Mental health is something that people die from every day, right? And people fight it even harder on a day-to-day basis. I encourage you not to suffer in silence, not to lessen what you're going through, because what you're going through is very, very real, and is what they like to call a silent killer.
mm,
I'd rather see you being, I'd rather see you elevated than to see you become another statistic out there. So please take care of your mental health. Make sure that you have people around you that love on you, understanding and keeping it real with you during those times where you need it the most, and making sure that you stand honest with yourself. And with that being said, I want to say thank you for tuning in for another episode of Memories of Us. Until next time, you guys keep your head up. There's no such thing as broken. Look for ways of healing, and always, always, always take care of your mental health, because you matter. And people out here like myself and Sandra, we love you, and we want to see you tomorrow. Until the next time, take care.